And okay, hi everyone. Welcome to week 6 of Figma Decal lecture. Give me a quick thumbs up if this volume is okay. Awesome. This week we're going to be talking about FigJam and Figma Community. So some pretty fun stuff, pretty different from what we've been talking about normally in lecture, but some really cool resources and ways for you to get familiar with what exists in the Figmaverse. Okay, so real quick, we're going to start with a midterm project check-in, talk about FigJam after that, and then Figma Community, and a little bit about finding design inspiration. So if you want to go ahead and scan the QR code or type in that bit.ly, you can go ahead and fill out the regular attendance form. And yeah, also just give me a quick thumbs up or look up when you have that scanned. Sweet. Anyone else still need it? All right. And if you want to follow along on the slides, this is the bit.ly to that slide deck link. Just a quick note, like last time, some of the slides are different just because the ones that you're viewing are a slightly older version of the slides, but you have pretty much the same content. All right, let's talk a bit about the midterm project. So real quick check-in, maybe just hold up the amount of fingers, but just to get a vibe check, a read of the room, if you have chosen maybe your prompt or your restaurant, hold up one finger. If you started brainstorming, ideating, etc., hold up two. Okay. And if you've actually started working on the project, hold up three fingers. So anything is fine. Cool. And if you haven't started at all, that's totally cool too. You still have time. And this week's lab will be a good chance for you to check in with some other people in the class. All right, so a good mix, but before we proceed, does anyone have questions about the project? Okay, cool. Let's talk about FigJam. So are you all familiar with the existence of a FigJam, or maybe raise your hand if you've heard of it before? Okay, cool. So maybe some of you have used it, maybe not. What is FigJam? Well, essentially, FigJam is an extension of Figma, or another branch of Figma that is a big online digital whiteboard. So the goal of Figma is to encourage collaboration and group ideation. So just like Figma, FigJam is vector-based, and it has a lot of tools available that aren't available in Figma that really are conducive to live brainstorming, diagramming, coming up with ideas with your team. So essentially, it's a very collaborative tool, and it just helps people come up with a lot of ideas. So FigJam is something that you can bring up when you click on new file. So let's say you're in Figma, and every time you create a new file, it'll ask you if you want to create a new design file, which is the standard Figma file that would that you just design in. But it'll also ask you if you want to create a new FigJam file. And what does that look like? So I just started a pretty blank file here. So let's say I clicked on new FigJam file, and it brings me to this whiteboard space, and I just typed Figma Decal Lecture 6. But what really does this workspace offer? So when you look at it at first glance, the FigJam whiteboard space is pretty simple. It doesn't really have like the layers, assets, or like prototyping panels that a Figma file does. You know, it doesn't have all of these. But like I mentioned, it is useful in its own way. So you might notice instead that there's something on the bottom and some icons on the top that might be helpful. So let's talk about what FigJam does offer. So you have a top toolbar. And so just like in a normal Figma file, you have tools at the top, but in FigJam, they're pretty different. You have a timer tool, like a diagram template tool, and a comment tool. And then also like in Figma, you have the share button, and you can also see how zoomed into the file you are. So if we take a look at our FigJam file, it's pretty small in the top, but you see I can share the file with people. I can comment, be in comment mode, so I can just leave a comment and say, hey, I can click on this timer and set a timer, and also set a song for that timer, which is crazy and awesome. And I can also choose some templates that we'll explain more a little bit later. So FigJam is this just like awesome collaborative tool, and you have these things offered to you. And the bulk of the tools are really in the bottom toolbar. So like I mentioned, it's not really the same as Figma where you have all these like vectors and shapes. You know, you have like these complicated like widgets and like pen tools, et cetera, et cetera. In FigJam, you don't really have that. Instead, you have all these things that make collaborating fun. So you have shapes you can make, sticky notes, like digital sticky notes that are sort of like meant to simulate designers ideating or affinity mapping. You have a lot of cool widgets and stickers, and honestly, the stickers are my favorite part because they're just cute and fun and slay. And you can also add certain like stamps and like sections of a diagram that you want to organize and text. And we'll play around with this a little bit too, so you can see what that looks like in action or get a feel for it. Yeah, so let me just go over a couple of the tools that are in this bottom toolbar. The first one is the marker tool. It's sort of similar to Figma's pencil tool and not its pen tool in that it's just like a lot of freehand drawing that you're meant to do. So you don't really get into the nitty gritty of like, oh, how do I edit this node? How do I make this shape look super precise? If you just want to press M or click on the marker tool, like I can just draw something freehand. Pick a color and a width and just, yeah, just scribble all over the page like I want. So that's the marker tool, pretty self-explanatory. You also have the shape tool in this bottom toolbar. So you can click on it, choose a shape. Let's say I want a diamond, and then I want it to be orange. So do that, and I can add some text. Today is March 6th. Also pretty straightforward. And let's say you want to change the color of your shape once it's made. Well, okay, I have like a couple options and I can also choose. So yeah, you kind of get like stylistic freedom that way. But again, like a lot of these like color changes or like a lot of these like tools are simpler than what you get in Figma. And a lot of times we end up using them to just like distinguish like different thoughts or sticky notes or shapes from each other. Not really because we're trying to create something super elaborate. You can also change the outline of a shape. Or sorry, you can change the color of a shape and then its outline will sort of be coordinated to what its color is. And the outline of a shape can be solid or dashed, or it can not have an outline at all. So yeah, just some other stylistic freedom that you get. You can also customize a lot of the text that's involved in your shapes. So let's create a new shape. And let's say I want to make a rectangle or a square. Type in a bunch of gibberish. And then I can make the text really big or not so big. I can bold it. I can strike through, bullet point it, etc. So yeah, you still get some freedom with text too. Yeah, all pretty straightforward so far. Does anyone have any questions about making shapes, changing colors, using the marker? Pretty simple stuff. All right. So one other really cool part of Figma is the connector tool. So let me just put these two random sticky notes here. And then let us talk about connectors. So connectors are essentially just arrows that lead from one object to another, and they let you create paths or connections. So Think about maybe if you're diagramming the steps of a user flow or some type of process, and you say, okay, I want this thing to lead to the next. It's really useful to use a connector, just because you can, guide the viewer or guide the other collaborators of your team along. So you can just press X or click on this button down here, the little arrow, and then you can lead from one thing to another. And yeah, connectors are cool because they're just like very bendy arrows. You can add like certain like divots in the arrow itself. But they're just a really great way to have arrows that connect things together, hence the name connector. So like I mentioned, connectors can be drawn between existing shapes, and I can connect them either by pressing on this connector tool down at the bottom toolbar, or I can just hover over a shape, and these blue dots will appear. And if you see it filled in, that means you can click on it and it will start drawing a connector to another shape, which is really useful. So FigJam is essentially saying, okay, we want you to connect things together. That's like sort of what it was built for. So it makes diagrams really useful. Yep. So yeah, they are extremely helpful for diagramming and visual mapping and any sort of direction guided sort of visual. Like I mentioned, connectors are also sort of flexible and adjustable. So you have two types of connectors, elbow connectors, and as you can see in the GIF here, it's sort of just being adjusted by adding more like steps in this like little staircase type connector. And a lot of times I think people just use it for like visual effect. But it can be useful too if you are like trying to connect two really oddly configured shapes. And yeah, you can convert them back into straight lines too. So just a little cool feature of connectors. And yeah, okay. So that was a lot about arrows, but essentially a pretty useful connecting tool. Let us talk about what libraries are. So in this bottom part of the toolbar, you'll see that just like a bunch of icons are popping up. And it's called the library. So the FigJam library is essentially where you'll find a lot of cool FigJam features. So that might be stickers, templates, widgets, plugins, etc., etc. And what are these like? What are they? So if I navigate to my FigJam file and I hover, and I have a couple shortcuts already, it looks like, for these stickers and plugins that I use a lot. I use this like really swag Apple sticker a lot, so that's why it's just popping up here. And if I click on more, a bunch of stuff will pop up. So what is involved here? I have a template, so let's say, oh look, I want to build a flowchart. I can add this template here to my FigJam file. I can add like this is basically like a little digital Polaroid photo camera. There are a lot of plugins, like Blobs is one that I use in like normal Figma a lot, and I guess you can run it here too. I can even run code in here, which I have no idea how I would do that, but or I don't know what I would put in there, but apparently you can. So that's awesome. Like we saw before, I can like set a timer. So let's say like you are brainstorming something with your team and you say, oh, I want everyone to like brainstorm ideas for like 5 minutes. You could set a timer for that. And yeah, personally, I'm just like a big sticker fan, because there are a bunch of fun stickers that you can use, and they're really useful when people are providing feedback or just like trying to spruce up a brainstorming document. I think that stickers make FigJam super fun. So yeah, a lot of stuff in the libraries block of a FigJam file. Okay, templates, I already mentioned a bit, but templates are essentially like things that people constructed in FigJam to become like a template for you to use. And they're a great way to take advantage of what FigJam is made for. So if I have two ways to access them in the current configuration of FigJam. I can hover over this like library, click on more, and go to templates and pick one. Or I can go straight to here, click on that, and I have a ton of templates to choose from. So you can see on this left sidebar that there is a ton of things listed. And so maybe I want to run a workshop, or I want to like diagram something out. There are a lot of templates already made by the FigJam user community that I can use for myself. So a ton of different purposes, and you might even see some fun games like a feelings wheel and FigJam chess. So yeah, templates are a really good way to get familiar with what FigJam offers, and to explore what its capabilities are. You can also insert images in FigJam and crop them, adjust them, copy and paste them. And one thing that is unique to FigJam is that unlike in Figma, the images, whenever you like scale them bigger and smaller, they'll always scale proportionally. So you're never gonna like crop or like stretch out an image in FigJam. One other super fun part that is located in the bottom toolbar is the stamp and emote part. So if I press E or click on this, a lot of times when you're brainstorming with a team, you'll want to leave feedback and say, oh, like I really like this idea that you said, or I'm not like sure what you said here, and people will leave like these stamps here, or you can be like, oh, this idea is endorsed by me, and it'll like leave a sticker with your profile picture or your like initial on it. Yeah, and then an emote is something that's used a lot during like live FigJam, where like you click on it, you like wave it around, or you hold and wave it around, then you'll just be able to like create this live reaction in FigJam, which is also pretty cute and useful. So yeah, another key part of FigJam. Yeah, so you have at your disposal stickers, stamps, emotes, etc. And all of these are good for expressing your reactions or your feelings on something that maybe your teammate brainstormed, or on like some sort of diagram. A lot of times, in my personal experience and in others, I found that a lot of people use these three things for like voting on what their favorite idea is, or just like leaving general types of feedback on different plans and ideas. Yeah, we already talked about the timer tool, but useful for setting brainstorming time, or doing a group activity that's timed. And it's really useful to have in FigJam because everyone has an eye on like what the time left is. And it'll sing a really cute tune once you're done. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is also one of the best parts of FigJam that I won't demonstrate live today because I need other people in the FigJam with me. But you can high five people in FigJam. Like that's so cute and cool. Um, Essentially, like, oh, let's say you're having like a really great brainstorming session, and like the ideas are like ideating and everything is flowing and just like the minds are working. And you're like, oh my God, teammate, like you are doing so great. Can I give you a high five? But I think this was implemented like during COVID. But let's say you can't high five each other in person because you're not with them. So you can just like hold down the H key, wiggle your cursor around a bunch, and then if you guys both do it, you can high five each other and you create this super awesome high five effect. You should check it out. You can also use something called cursor chat, which you can use in Figma too. But essentially, if you're brainstorming live and your teammate or someone else is on a FigJam with you and you're like, oh my God, this makes me have a certain reaction. Oh my God, I need to let them know. And you can type in by pressing the slash, and cursor chat will pop up and you'll be able to say, oh my God, wow, that's awesome. And then it'll fade. Yep. So that's cursor chat, exists in Figma too. And also super helpful for live commentary. Yeah, okay, so that is like a pretty, I think, comprehensive overview of what little trinkets are offered in FigJam. And we've established that there are cool reaction-based things that are cute. That FigJam is good for diagramming and brainstorming, and It's a great tool for collaboration. But how does that really relate to Figma? Well, a lot of times when you're designing something or building something, you want to run it by a team first, or you want to diagram it first, or you want to plan it out first. And so FigJam is a great way to do all of that before you jump into Figma and start actually building something. And the great thing about Figma and FigJam is that they're pretty compatible. So a lot of things you can start brainstorming in FigJam and then paste into Figma. Or if you have something in Figma that exists and you want to create an example out of it and like put it in your FigJam file, you can do that too. And a lot of them might have like different representations as to like what type of object they are in like the other type of file. So like a lot of times if I paste like a sticky note or something from FigJam into Figma, it'll be like listed as such. And you won't always have like the same properties for all of these objects if you like transfer it into a different type of file. But yeah, they are pretty transferable between FigJam and Figma, which makes that bond stronger and makes it easier to brainstorm and then design, or go back and forth between the two. All right, let's do a quick demo. But before that, any other questions? Okay, sweet. So if you all want to do a quick FigJam demo, I would suggest going to bit.ly/FigJam/demo. And it will actually take you to a cool community file. Oh gosh, you can see all my crocheting tabs. That's awesome. Okay, so if you type in that bit.ly, and it'll take you to this type of file, click use this resource. Okay. And click on get a copy. I think I have it pulled up. Okay, I already made a copy, so I'll do it here. But yeah, can you just give me a thumbs up if you are gonna follow along on this demo? Oh my God, awesome that you all are following along and entering this super easy bit.ly that I pulled up to follow along during lecture. That's awesome. I love the participation, guys. And it's a basic demo, so you won't have any trouble with it at all. And we're all here together, so if you do, no problem. All right, let's dive into it. Does anyone still need the link? Slash. Okay, cool. So let's go over some basics of FigJam then, and you can practice for yourself and see how fun FigJam can be. So welcome to FigJam. If it's your first FigJam file, that's awesome. If you just pan over, you can access the different slides. So what is the first way to make use of FigJam? I think that the most often used item is a sticky. So press S, and then you can just place a sticky by clicking your cursor and then type a super cool idea. And then if you select the previous sticky and click Command Enter, you can create another one. Super easy. And then write down a second cool idea. Very straightforward. Connectors, like I mentioned, very useful for connecting stuff. So you can just draw an arrow by pressing X or pressing this button to connect stuff. Cursor chat, I also kind of explained. So press slash, leave a cool note. Everyone good so far? Thumbs up if you're good, thumbs otherwise if you're not. Sweet. Okay, and then just play around with emotes, stamps. Give you guys like 2 minutes to just check out the rest of the file. Pretty basic stuff. Just yeah, do jazz hands or thumbs up when you've played around and you're like, this is cool and I get it. And I'm just gonna put some stickers down while I wait. For those of you watching the recording, I'm sorry if you hear my laptop breathing really loudly. Okay, how's everyone doing? Have y'all gotten the chance to play around in the FigJam playground a bit? Yeah. Um, Anyone find any really cool feature or sticker or tool that they enjoyed using? Okay, well, it seems to be pretty smooth sailing. Um, so we can jump back into the slides. And let me go over some FigJam use cases. I already talked about these, so won't say much more, but FigJam has a lot of templates that people created, and you can use them for things like brainstorming sessions, diagrams, things that you're doing with a team of people. If you just click on templates up at the top left, a bunch of useful stuff will pop up and games, so you really won't get bored. Um, like I mentioned, a lot of times diagramming is one of the basic things. So that these might be for user flows or mind maps or just, any sort of like thing where you might need to visualize text on shapes and directions. Um, User personas are also really easy to create in FigJam. So for those of you who have had experience with the human-centered design process and like user synthesis, you might be used to creating user personas for a certain type of prompt. And you can do that really easily in FigJam, especially collaboratively and like really accessible in a visual way. Like I mentioned, fun and games. FigJam has chess. FigJam has Haiku Composer. FigJam has Connect 4. FigJam has a ton of things. So go crazy, go wild. Another really popular use of FigJam is the whiteboard. So you can draw things, leave sticky notes, leave images, react to things that your team members might have said on a sticky note, etc. So you can really create like organized diagrams, and you can also create like very all over the place sticky notes and like ideation boards. So these are all screenshots of what the Figma Decal course staff has done in the past. And we've done this to plan for this class. So, you can really make the most out of FigJam, whatever type of person you are. All right. So next we are going to talk about Figma Community. But I will give you guys a 2-minute break, just so you can like stretch and get some water. And I know it says featuring Jago, but that's a lie actually. So no Jago this time. He is a previous member of the course staff. So yeah, feel free to come back around 6:12, 6:13, and then we'll start back up. Okay, cool. 6:12. So let's start talking about Figma Community and what that is. So what is community? Essentially, Figma Community is a space for all the users of Figma to get inspiration from other users, to discover resources, to see what other creators on Figma are up to, and to support them. So Figma, as part of its like general underlying philosophy, wants to make design and design tools accessible for everyone. And I think community is a really realistic and tangible implementation of this vision. So, how do people share things? Essentially, people make things, aka they become creators and they publish files on community, or they might develop plugins that you can use. So you can find UI kits, wireframes, different templates that you end up using on FigJam, and so many more types of things like games and animations that exist on Figma. So if you've heard of Behance or Dribble, it's sort of like that. It has that collaborative sharing aspect of the projects people have worked on, but all of it exists on Figma. So, what are some of the specific things you can find? Generally, you'll find community files, which are things that users have created and have published and made accessible to anyone on Figma. So usually, when you find a community file that you like or want to use or build off of, you'll take a look at it, and just like you did with the FigJam file, you will duplicate it, so make your own copy, and then you'll have a copy of that in your drafts. Um, People also create plugins to use on Figma that are published to community. And that just makes their Figma experience more elevated and more, yeah, just like a lot more versatile. So, for example, I have a plugin that I love to use. And essentially, uh, I'm in a Figma file and I click on plugins up here. And I have one called Font Preview. And essentially what it does is it previews fonts for you, because in Figma, as you might know, when you select a font, it doesn't like really show what it looks like in that font. So I can see, what do all these fonts look like? And I use it all the time. So that is what a plugin is. And then prototypes are another thing you can find in Figma Community. But essentially they're a file that is published with the prototype mode of things instead of just the draft. So that's when you like press the play icon and you can like interact with something that someone has made. So how do you find community? If you go to the home screen of your Figma site or like Figma on browser or app, you just hover over where it has like your name and your email, click on this little caret and click on community. So yeah, you can just explore what people will have to offer. And you can like search for certain creators or different types of things you might be looking for. Yeah, so what does the community page look like? Well, I guess you can take a look yourself, but essentially you have things that are featured by Figma itself. You have a search bar and filters, and also places to explore. So just like a whole wealth of resources. And once you actually click on a file, so let's say I just click on this, it'll just give you the tags and information about this community file, and sometimes it'll give you more information on the creator. You can also click on a creator profile. So a lot of times, just like with Behance or Dribble or any other like social type of thing, you can click on the creator and see what else they've made. So Ace got a really cool he came onto Figma community early, and so he got the actually really cool tag Ace as his like creator handle. And these are all the things he's worked on and created. So yeah, you can sort of see yeah, a little blurb about the creator, see what else they've made. It's really cool. And another thing is that even if you are not publishing your yeah, even if you're not publishing things in the Figma community, you can still install plugins and duplicate files. But if you do want your own like creator custom handle, you should make it soon, because as Figma and Figma community get more and more popular, a lot of people take the really cool handles or the handles you might be looking for. And that's why Ace got Ace, because he was here early. Yeah. Okay, so what can you use community for? Um, like I mentioned, it's like Behance or Dribble. So it is great for looking for inspiration on what to design, to see how others use Figma, to see how to enhance your own Figma experience. You can make your workflow more efficient by downloading plugins. So the ones that are suggested here are Better Font Picker or Contrast Checker. I mentioned Font Preview that I use so that I can like see what fonts look like before I choose them. Again, we've mentioned that templates for FigJam are published on Figma Community. And you also have like entire logo libraries and design libraries and UI wireframes so that you can kickstart your design process. So community has all of these things and more. And yeah, let's just go through a couple of examples on what community offers. But before that, any questions on community or what you might be able to find on it? Yeah, go ahead. I'm actually not sure. I haven't seen evidence of it. I don't think it's like a lot of like other content creator type like jobs that people might have. But I do think that like sometimes people will make it under like a company, like but like it'll be like a collab between like the company's Figma account and like their own. Or I'm sure that like people might get sponsored, but I haven't heard of like people monetizing it. I don't know what like legal capabilities Figma offers for that, if that makes sense. But yeah, I can look into it. Cool. Okay, let's just go through some examples. And yes, some of these come from the course stuff and they might be useful for your midterm projects. So if you chose the branding prompt, you might find the brand style guide kit really helpful. And what does that look like? So essentially, okay, what does this offer? You'll notice that there's like a drop-down menu here. And I just want to see what like is offered in this. Um, so I can just click on the drop-down and zoom in. And it gives us like a little bit of a introduction to what this is for. Um, and like a lot for like how we might build a brand styling kit. So yeah, if you pick the branding prompt or thinking about doing that one, this one is really helpful. Interposter community is another one. And if you picked the visual design prompt, this is also really helpful because you'll be able to look at a lot of these like visual design processes for these illustrations. Yeah. Avatar illustration system is another really cool one. So maybe less relevant for like redesigning like restaurant visuals, but perhaps if you're planning on using avatars in your designs, I can expand and see what this is all about. So it gives us all these options and like different components for how you can build avatars. And if you duplicate the file, you can create your own avatar and play around with that. And it gives you a couple example avatars. So these past three examples are not only like, oh, things people have created and want to share, but also things that you can use yourself in order to build some sort of project. So I remember that I looked at the brand guidelines kit when I was working on my midterm for this class because I had chosen the branding prompt. And I was able to see like, okay, like this is like a component of like what's involved in branding. Like this might be how I want to approach like the typography aspect of it, etc. So these can give you really good guidelines for how other designers build things that they're working on or approach that process. Cool. And I won't go through all of these since you have the slides and you can check them out yourself. And the bit.ly that has the slides should be able to should have all these links updated. So yeah, how to create mockups in Figma or how to create artboard mockups. What does a material design system look like? So this is a file and a plugin made by Google. How do you conduct user research and how do you use FigJam to do it? So you notice that Figma for Education, which is like a team within Figma, has made this. And this is a really good like diagram for conducting user research. Oh my God, Figma Catan. If you play Catan, well, now you can do it on Figma, which is crazy. Also a really cool community file. So I'm just gonna check this one out. A fully playable version of Catan. And yeah, you can just expand the file and take a look at what it offers. So has all the directions and the pieces involved. So yeah, so obviously not as applicable to your midterm projects, but a really cool community file. Zelda Maker, also a cool one. Resume template might be pretty useful. So you really see that the range extends to everything from like design tools to like professional tools to games. Tetris, also a really cool one. Yeah, that is just like a ton of stuff. If you're interested in like escape rooms, Ace has actually made like a murder mystery mansion themed escape room. So if I just go to community, I'm already on Ace. Yeah, he like created an escape room that multiple people I know have played without knowing who he is. He also created like an Animal Crossing character maker. So you see the creative boundaries of like what people are making and sharing are really just like everywhere. But yeah, any questions on community in general? I know that this was just like a lot of me sharing like what exists, but yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Well, I don't remember if it's published to community. Um, but for my final for this class, um, Okay, well, I don't have anything published to community, but I'll actually, I think it'll get sent out with the final, like, that would be my drafts. Um, but it's like essentially I like did it made this like sort of simulation of like a book turning pages, and I did it about like the book itself was like about books. I was like, oh, here's some of my favorite books, but you're like turning the pages like a book. So it's very meta. Um, and yeah, I love to read. It's one thing about me. Yeah, but I'm very shy, so I apparently don't have anything published on community. Maybe one day. Cool. Okay. Just a bit about finding inspiration. Because I know that having a design process, especially if you haven't like done that many design projects before, the approach might feel kind of weird, or you might not really know what steps to take. So how do you take what ideas or like nebulous concepts you might have and turn it into like a very like concrete design approach, if that's your style? Well, the first thing can be to look for design inspirations. So that might be online, or like in physical forms of media, or from people that you already know. So um, yeah, how can you find that inspiration? So we have listed a bunch of links here where you can do that. Figma Community, obviously, Dribble, Behance, Pinterest, etc. So you can look at what other people and other designers have done to find inspiration and different modes of it. You know, I might use Pinterest just to create like a mood board of something. But then I might look on Figma Community to see like, oh, what's possible for what people have made. Things like that. And then if I'm doing something more like UI UX related, I'd probably look on Dribble or Behance. And also inspiration is everywhere. So even though we're telling you to look on Figma Community, and all these like design sites where people are sharing things, you never know, like, oh, like, look, this water bottle has an awesome design with an awesome handle and I use it. But I wasn't expecting that. I didn't find this on Figma Community. You might find it in like your everyday life in food packaging or like packages of different things. You might find it in like fashion that people are wearing or architecture. And yeah, you just find inspiration where you might not expect it. And one thing about inspiration is that it is not the same as copying. So designers love to take inspiration from others. And what does that really look like? Well, inspiration is not copying because one, ideally, you are giving credit where credit is due. So if you're using anyone else's community file, make sure to like keep their name in your version of it. Make sure to ask someone if you're using something of theirs. You know, just give credit where credit is due. Um, yeah, draw from multiple sources of inspiration. So you might just find inspiration from different places, and then you can be sure to add on to that and make the work your own. So yeah, inspiration is not equal to copying, but remember that people do deserve credit and you can add your own twist onto things. Yeah, another thing we like to stress, especially for our projects in Figma Decal, is that documentation is important. So like we talked about the midterm project, people do like to see their own like, or sorry, we do like to see like your entire design process. So you can organize a specific frame that's a mood board. You can have like different pages to organize different parts of your design process. Just keeping track of that, how that process like makes advances is important. So yeah, have somewhere to save your inspiration and different parts of your design process. Some other tips for mood boarding: be clear about what mood you are mood boarding for and the goal of said mood board. Start with some keywords that help guide you for the vibe you want. And yeah, don't be afraid to explore. Any questions? Sweet. Okay, so just a couple announcements to wrap up then. Um, First, no homework again this week, so be sure to work on your midterm. We know that you all are busy probably with other midterms and projects, but yeah, I think that this is like a very exciting project that you have a lot of agency with. So feel free to just dive as deep into that as you want. And if you're struggling, be sure to go to ACES office hours or ask your TA or your lab group mates for, extra perspective. Lab this week will be focused on the midterms, so we do recommend that you start by then. It's really important that you show up to this lab because one, we'll be using FigJam, so you can get familiar with it, and two, you'll be able to get some really good feedback from the people in your lab. So yeah, please try to show up. And it's okay if you don't have a lot done on the midterm project by then, but getting feedback from your lab mates and giving feedback on the work that people already have done will be very helpful. Okay, the secret word is cuisine. So Cuisine. Everyone got it? I don't know if there's okay. Well, does everyone got it? Yeah, I can't find a marker. Okay, cool. Cuisine. And yeah, work on the midterm. Please show up to lab. And if you already have an existing conflict, just let your TA know ahead of time if you can't make it. And yeah, come to office hours if you can, because we love hearing about your projects. Cool. Okay, any final questions before we sign off for today? Sweet. Okay, thank you for showing up to lecture if you were able to come in person, and thanks for watching. I hope you have a great week and good luck on your projects.